Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Dickens and Quips, the poet podcast that takes the Keats for my Keats, sugar for my honey out of poetry. Join me, Dee Dickens, as I wander around showing you a world that isn't only populated by old dead white men. This week, oh, so excited this week, I have Kate North with me, or should I say Dr. Kate North. It's actually really important to me that women get referred to by the titles that they've bloody well earned. So I have Dr. Kate North with me. I'm very, very pleased about this for reasons I will go into. But first, the official bio. Kate North writes poetry and fiction and is from Cardiff. She is a reader in creative writing at Cardiff Metropolitan and chair of Literature Wales. She has published 4 books. Her first poetry collection was Bistro in 2012, described as skillful and particularly poignant in New Welsh Review, and as sparkling with energy and vitality in Orbis Quarterly International Literary Journal. Her 2018 poetry collection, The Way Out, contains poems that relate the personal, the political, the everyday, and the absurd. Zoe Brigley has described it as muscular and commanding. Nice. The Philip Gross says that reading it is like being outbound on a journey. Nice. Her 2019 short story collection is called Punch, which Rachel Tresize describes as original and inventive, sincere and gutsy. Now, if you live in Wales, you know Rachel Tresize is a big deal, but a bigger deal is Kate North. Help me welcome her. Say hi, Kate.
Thank you, Dee. What a lovely introduction.
You're welcome. What the bio doesn't say is what Kate means to me personally. Kate's one of my lecturers at uni, and reading her work in first year got me thinking about prose poetry and how we apply poetics to our work. We had this conversation and I couldn't remember which one it was. So I went back this morning and had a look to see which poem it was of yours that we did. And it was The Snow Spits.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And I read it back again and still went, oh, I love this poem. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous.
Thank
Uh,
you.
you're welcome. The imagery in it and like the snowflake on the wrist and it's just gorgeous. And it made me question what poetry could be. I was fresh out of thinking poetry was just old dead white men. So this was a tsunami of feels and opportunity and whoa, the what? It literally, I sat there with my jaw down. I think it was probably the moment I thought, all right, maybe there's more to this. She in year 3 she took me for a class called the autobiographical eye and got me thinking about how I write, why I write, and that assignment was a real turning point. It led to a whole collection about how my brain works. Resting Confused Face has come out of the autobiographical eye class, so I can't wait to pick hers shortly.
Wow.
So yeah, so when you last week I was talking to Sven Steers and we were talking about the impact that our poetry has on people and how we don't always know it and how actually it's really nice to be able to tell people. It's one of the things I like about doing this podcast. I get to tell people what their work means to me.
That's great. It's lovely to hear.
Yeah, I'm glad. It's lovely to hear. So for this week in What You're Reading, Dee, I have revisited a collection from one of my other lecturers. I have been reading More Than You Were by Christina Thatcher again. It's one of those that I pick up every now and then just to remind myself of how beautiful it is. This collection is about her father and death and grief and addiction. And the one I'm going to read to you is Anticipation. So this is Anticipation by Christina Thatcher. I sat in the car and waited for whatever you were doing to finish. You told me if I was good, I could have my own pack of red gum from the store. For hours, I imagined the taste of cinnamon that never came. Always gets me how she can pack so much into so few words. It's just, oh, so yeah.
Yeah, well, leaving you with that taste of cinnamon.
Yeah. She just leaves you with the taste of cinnamon that never comes. So she leaves you yearning for that cinnamon, which puts you right in the car with her.
Yeah, it does. And you're left waiting as a reader. It's really beautiful.
It is. It's stunning. Stunning, not just poetically, but technically as well. She's very, very good at Christina. So the poem of mine that I'm doing this week is one of those that's actually from the new collection, Resting Confused Face.
Exciting.
That was basically, Kate always got me thinking about what I'm doing in an analytical way. I started to question what exactly a poem was. So this one is something I wrote while thinking about what a poem was. So this is a poem. Let me just tell you, cigarettes taste terrible. The sheer commitment you need to have to get that shit into your lungs more than once should come with a medal. World's most stupid 12-year-old. But this is not an anti-smoking poem. Let me just tell you, I went to every effort to make sure I was caught. World's smallest punk blossoming into a rebel without a clue, coughing up lungs in the silent chapel. Ash staining the altar cloth grey, but this is not an anti-religion poem. Let me just tell you, the beating I took for getting suspended and bringing shame was made worse for the screaming through a blue haze cigarette fog while tripping over a full ashtray. This is a poem about hypocrisy.
Wow.
Thanks. I'm really very fond of that poem. It's one
Do
of my...
you really smoke a cigarette in church?
Yeah. I went to a convent. I went to the convent of Our Lady School for Girls in Hastings and did not fit in the slightest. If you could see Kate, she is giggling her head off. Having known me for like a couple of years, I can see she's thinking, no, she wouldn't. And because I didn't fit in, I thought, well, if I'm not going to fit in, let's not fit in all the way. So I hated it there, but I wasn't allowed to leave. So I thought, well, if I could try and get kicked out, that's different. And yeah, it was bad.
Did you succeed?
No. Right. Worst thing is, the girl I was smoking with, I'm not going to mention her name because I'm sure she's grown up and got family and stuff of her own now and probably doesn't want me spilling her secrets. But she was so badly behaved. Her parents paid extra to keep her there. Because this is my parents decided that like private school is where I should go. It was really against my principles, even as an 11-year-old socialist. I didn't want to go, but yeah. So I hung out with this girl, and if you hung out with her, you were pretty much covered by the diplomatic immunity. Well, it wasn't for me because I still never got kicked out. I got asked to tender my resignation in year 3. I'm not going to tell you what that was for. Okay. I might put it in a poem at some point.
You will. I know you will.
You know me well. Okay, so now this is the bit that I really, really love. The guest interview. And I still don't have a jingle. I need to have a jingle.
Yeah,
I should have a jingle. Yeah, but I'm absolutely hot on paying everybody for everything, so I'll have to wait until I got some money and then I can pay someone to make me a jingle. But I'm going to ask Kate the questions that matter now.
Okay,
so the very first one is just a little thing. Why is poetry important to you?
Well, God, it's just part of me, I suppose. I've always been drawn to write poetry. It seems to help me make sense of the world, or if I can't make sense of the world, it makes me feel better about not being able to make sense of it. Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
Does
so
it?
Have you been writing poetry forever?
Yeah, I really have actually since a very young age. I've always written full stop,
Yeah.
and I've always written poetry. I wouldn't have necessarily known what I was writing was poetry at younger age, but I was always doing that, trying to find the best form of words to describe a particular feeling or a situation. Um, yeah, it's something I've always done. But I think, I grew up in an environment where people sort of enjoyed language, even just on a verbal level,
Yeah.
playing with words and things. And so it was just fun to me.
Playing with words is fun is
Yeah.
something I can absolutely identify with. I come from a long oral tradition. And I think it's one of the reasons that I feel so at home in Wales,
Right. Yeah.
because there is that oral tradition there as well. So the amount of people I know, the amount of writers, Welsh writers that I know, who seem to get absolute joy out of words.
Yeah, it is. It's all around us. And I really didn't appreciate that as a young child. It's only sort of looking back and with a slightly older head that I realised that's where so much of it comes from. You are surrounded by it, particularly in South Wales. Yeah, that richness of language and expression and the absolute joy people have in expressing themselves.
And that expression covers everything. I mean, yesterday, we're recording this on the 22nd, though it's not going to go out for a little while yet. Yesterday, obviously, was the anniversary of the Aberfan disaster. And there have been so many words written about that too, so many poetic words, so much singing. Well, it seems to me when the Welsh feel any emotion, whether it's joy or grief, there are words for that.
Yeah, yeah, or that it's like a natural instinct to try and attempt to find those words.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That really does. So, are you writing at the moment? And if so, what kind of stuff are you writing?
I'm always writing, and I'm writing poetry. Yeah, I think maybe I've got the beginnings of a new collection starting to form, but I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to say too much about it
I get it.
because I might be wrong.
There is always that feeling that if you name it, it will slip away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know that one. So, how much are you reading at the moment and what are you reading? Because I'm assuming you're reading.
Yeah, I'm reading. What's the last thing I read? It was a short story collection actually by Ali Smith called Public Library.
Yeah.
And that's a yeah, I really enjoyed that. That's a sort of quietly political collection of short stories on the importance of libraries, that aren't always very well funded in Great Britain at the minute.
No.
So I totally recommend that. And she's a writer that I find very compelling in terms of the short story form. She really likes to condense things, and she can give you a whole world in a moment. And I find her prose actually very poetic for that reason.
Yeah. Funnily enough, actually, we did some Ali Smith in first year with Dan when we were doing writing short stories, and she does, the whole world is captured in a moment, which is why I liked Christina's poem that I read earlier as well, Anticipation, because you are in this car and that car, there is nothing outside of it. So I love that about it. And Ali Smith, yeah, she is really good. I'll put a link to her stuff in the show notes when this goes out as well. So if anybody who's listening wants to have a look at that, they can find it nice and easily. Obviously the links to your stuff will be going in as well. So, and your Twitter and everything. So it's great. So my favorite bits, this is, whose poem from someone else are you going to read? Which poem from someone else are you going to read for us?
Okay, so I'm going to read a poem by Jackie Kay from her collection Life Mask. And I love this collection. And it's dedicated to her son Matthew, the collection is. And this particular poem is it's about watching him grow up, I suppose. And in lockdown, particularly over the summer with kids at home, I was very much watching my children grow up 24/7 in the house. And so I feel like I've been doing a lot of that lately. And this is a beautiful poem. It's about watching him play the piano. And it's full of love and a weird sort of beautiful sadness as well, I think. And it's called Piano 4 p.m. The music lifts up and up and up. My son's scales trails his long brown fingers. It is so particular. Do, re, mi. He sits like time held still on the red piano stool. Fa, so, la. The scales linger on his shoulders, circle his childhood, Tido, and saunter down the hall to float above me in the kitchen cooking his dinner. The music lifts the lids, biding time, holding the moment well. In the interval, the strange space between notes, I chop onions. I stir and wait, taste and pause. I grind some pepper, sprinkle some sea salt. He starts again. And in they come, the children from another time, lifting their skirts, running by the dark river. And the bells of the past, they ring and ring. An old woman remembers how she used to dance, waltzing into the night air. And the night waves rish and crash and falter, and the rocks are always bare and glistening. My son plays Arioso in F away into the future. I can hear him grow up and off and up. I can see us in the space between the bars, mother and son. Here we come and go. My boy will become a man. The light will see the dark. The music, flowing now, sweeps and turns, rising and falling, innocent and knowing, pushing out its long limbs, the dance of the bones. It yearns and swings through the heart of our home. I hold my wooden spoon mid-air like a proud conductor. Tears fall down my face like notes.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, the rhythm of it. The rhythm of it feels like a waltz. I wanted to I was gently swaying to that. It was absolutely gorgeous. Good choice. I'll stick a link to in the show notes to that as well. I think so people can get hold of her collection. In fact, I'm going to have to order a copy for myself because
you'll love it. You'll love it.
Because that was I used to get so bored doing scales when I piano. I literally fall asleep on the piano. I hated it. It never occurred to me until just now that other people might have got some joy from hearing those same repeated notes over and over. That's made me think. See, you always make me think.
Good.
I mean, I know it's your job, but yeah, you do always make me think. So yeah, that's really cool. So which one of your poems are you going to read for us?
Okay, so this is uncanny because I decided to read this before you read your poem about smoking in a church, and I think you may appreciate it because there's a nod to religion, and I went to a Catholic school and was taught by nuns. And there were some things I liked about it, and I actually quite liked and lots of things that I like less. But in terms of the things I enjoyed, I really enjoyed the stories of the saints because I found them fascinating.
Yes.
Most saints, as recorded, had really weird lives and did odd things and had stigmata in strange places and did crazy stuff. And I found them fascinating. So this poem I'm going to read to you is called An A to Z of Saints, and it's kind of in a homage to all those stories growing up.
Fantastic.
Okay. An A to Z of Saints. Aloysius fired a gun. Bernardine melted sinners. Christina survived a furnace. Dunstan played the harp. Elizabeth carried roses. Finbar rode the sea. Gangolf slept with the king. Hugh sang after death. Illtyd guarded the Grail. Jerome suffered with guilt. Kilda is an island. Lorenzo swung to tears. Margaret expired through grief. Nicholas punched heretics. Ossith consolidated Essex. Paula renounced amusement. Quentin floated intact. Rita swarmed with bees. Sydney preferred mad dogs. Theodora worked in a brothel. Alfred broke Thor with an axe. Virgil knew of another world. Walburga caused oil to flow. Sixtus died with his deacons. Eve wore a hair shirt. Zoe refused to submit to Mars.
Wow. That's some wild stuff.
Pretty wild. Pretty wild.
That's mad. I love that. Thank you so much. I can't remember the name of him now. Noah will remember. But there was a saint in Bristol. He's a Bristol saint for some reason. And he was that into giving speeches and sermons. He died while leaning up against a wall mid-sermon.
I have to immediately find out who that was now. That's
yeah,
brilliant.
I will. When I find out, I will email you and let you know. But yeah, saints are wild.
Yeah,
and I love that poem because there is such a what the fuck element to it, which seems kind of irreverent at the same time as showing these mad individuals complete reverence for being mad. I love it.
Well, yeah, I mean, also, you know, like how these, to me, they're like fairy stories,
yeah,
or magical realist stories, and you know, half the stories in the Bible are bonkers, and yeah, they're just they're absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, Kilda is an island. I'm going to have to look up St Kilda now. But thank you so much for that, Kate. I really enjoyed that. Pleasure. So this week, on lines that make you go, ooh, I wish I'd written that, I'm actually going to read the first poem we've had submitted on a prompt. Hooray! So Camille Brouard, you are a star. Oh, that rhymed. I don't usually do rhyming. Camille is lovely. I met her at Unislam this year, and she's been part of this whole massive community of poets that got together and have become family over the lockdown. It's just been incredible. Like hundreds. I have a list of hundreds of people I want to get on this podcast. It's going to take me years to get through everybody. It's great. And she sent in a poem on the prompt of ball gown. It's great. So I'm just going to read that. It's called Regency Queerer. I don't know if I'd want the ball gown on your body or on mine, which heaving chest to pressed against the chinoiserie wallpaper, or where to put the breeches and whose hands would breech them, yours or mine, yours or mine.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love me a bit of chinoiserie wallpaper.
Oh, especially with a heaving breast up against it. One of the things that I have found about the contemporary poetry community is it's such an accepting space. And when I say accepting, I don't mean that it has decided to accept people. I mean, it could not be anything other than accepting, because it is such a queer, female, neurodivergent space, because there are so many queer poets. I struggle to think of one who was completely cishet that I met when was there. And it's just so lovely being in a space that cannot help but be accepting, because to reject any part of this would be self-rejection. So that's become really important to me. It was one of the reasons I set up Llaesnaweth, because I wanted to give these poets a voice. It was important to me that we had a voice. And that I was in a lecture once, and I won't name who it was, but we were doing a certain play, or a certain book rather, and the queer undertones weren't even undertones, they were overtones. The book should be called The Portrait of Dorian Gay, because it opens up with two old queens having a fight over a twink. I said what I said, I'm not taking it back. So, and I think that because of the way curriculums are run, and because we have so much to pack into that, unless you were doing a dedicated gender studies or queer studies degree, it's not something you would go into. So it's important to me that that sort of thing gets amplified and elevated. So there we go.
It's great. It's great that you're creating a space that you have identified that exists or that needs to exist, and that you're providing a platform. It's absolutely lovely.
Yeah, it's nice, because a lot of our poets have said, like, it feels like home, it's a family. So yeah, it is. And we are just as likely to be sharing memes of cats as we are to be talking about manuscripts.
Well, that's very right.
Cats are important. I'm really sorry, actually, you haven't got to see Frida. She normally comes and gate crashes on these. You never know, she might do. So this week in Llaesnaweth News, you'll remember Joe Thomas from episode 2, his book Cake, Liberty and Other Inexplicable Phenomena, a brilliant tour de force around autism and asexuality that you should definitely read, is out. You can buy it on Amazon, and we are working hard to get it in other places, including Waterstones. That's the dream, isn't it? Getting your book in Waterstones. I mean, you can get mine online at Waterstones, but actually having it in the shop, that's the dream. And Hannah Edge, as I said last week, has come up with a title for hers, and I did say I would let you know what it was. These days, we'll be covering some amazing themes of sexuality, of growing up, of neurodivergence, and I'll be telling you some more about them in upcoming episodes. We also have Redbubble merch, so if you're particularly self-sadistic and would like a mostly white jigsaw puzzle with a small logo in the middle, then you can get one there. Any money we make from that, we're not expecting it to be a lot, to be honest, but anything we do make from there is going straight into our pay your artist budget. Details and links for everything will be on the show notes as usual. So Kate, it is the time for the shameless plug. What have you got to sell? What are your socials? Do you make the world's best veggie lasagna? Tell us what you're good at.
I do not make the world's best veggie lasagna, but you can find me on my website, cakenorth.co.uk, and Kate T North on Twitter. I suppose my last two books, the things that I'll bring to your attention: The Way Out was my poetry collection with Parthian Press, and Punch, which was a short story collection that came out with Cinnamon Press. And yeah, that's it. I'll give it a little shout out as well to an organisation that I'm on the board of, Literature Wales. They're doing some fantastic work at the minute for writers in Wales, providing lots of paid opportunities for work, commissions and so forth. So do follow their social media as well at the minute. They put calls out when they have opportunities, and they're trying to put as many out there at the minute in this present situation when a lot of work has dried up for freelancers and artists.
Yeah, brilliant. Definitely. I will put all their details in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for that. So where are we? We're getting to the end. It's really sad. The poetry events are there's a Spooky Stories event that you'll find the link to on Facebook, which is going to be on the 27th. I shall be reading something that I cannot guarantee will not have the ghost of dead babies in it. That's all I'm saying. Last year, people audibly gasped and somebody nearly threw up. Apparently I'm quite a dark soul. Who knew? It's the convent education, I swear. But if there's anything else going on in your area, just let me know. I'm quite happy to publicise it. I want the more people being able to go and enjoy poetry and events as possible. So yeah, thanks for listening. I have been Dee Dickens, and you, as ever, have been utterly marvellous. You can get in touch with the show on dickensandquips@gmail.com or on Twitter and Insta as Dickens and Quips. I am on The Ponty Poet or Dee Dickens Poet and Author on Facebook. And please do let me know what's going on in your area. If you want to come on the show, hit me up. And don't forget to subscribe so I can get right in your loggles every week. And on that note, I leave you with prompt of the week. This week, it is, what does thinking mean? In honour of Kate, who always gets me to think. So if you want to send me a poem, I'll read it out on the next show. Thank you so much again for coming, Kate. It's been an absolute delight to have you.
Thank you for having me, Dee. It's an invitation I couldn't refuse. It's been a blast.
Oh, excellent. And try and take care, everybody, in these unprecedented, unrealistic, it would seem, times. Try and make good choices. And if you cannot make good choices, then write some poetry about it. Ta-ra! Bye!
Bye.